Welcome to Reefing Radio, your go-to salty station for reef aquarium talk, tips and interviews. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another episode of Reefing Radio. This week, we're joined by Ash, one of the directors and operators of Raise the Reef. Raise the Reef is a family-run business. It's operated by Ash and his partner Kia, who have over 12 years of experience in the reefing hobby. They're based in Swindon at Studley Grange Garden Centre, which is about, 10 seconds or something off the M4. So really, really easy to get to if you're in the southeast or southwest of the UK. Raise the Reef specialises in vibrant aquaculture corals with a particular focus on torches and other fancy high-end LPS. They're also passionate about making the hobby accessible and easy for new reefers, and they're more than happy to offer expert advice to their customers. So in this episode, we're going to talk about who Raise the Reef is, how Ash went about setting up and running a coral store, what it's like being a vendor at Aqua H, feeding coral, what it's like to stock rare LPS, and also anemones. So Ash, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Hi. Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Of course, once again, I'm joined by the damselfish divas, James and Gareth. How are you guys doing? It's a busy time of year, I think, for everyone. So we're recording this like 2 weeks before Christmas. Well, 10 days before Christmas.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, can't complain too much. Can't wait for Christmas. Everyone excited?
Yeah, we're getting the kids are wild and bouncing off the walls. It's been nativity this evening as well. So properly in the vibe now.
Yeah, we were chatting before the show that you were saying, Ash, that the store's pretty much going to stay open more or less for the most of the festive period. So you were saying it's a bit hard to predict. Like, is it going to be busy? Is it going to be quiet? Not really sure. Is this the first Christmas you've had the store?
This is the first Christmas, yeah. I think we've only had the shop for about 7 months now.
Okay, yeah.
Flown by.
All right, well,
absolutely flown by.
Well, let's jump into it then. So yeah, who is Raise the Reef?
So Raise the Reef, we are located at Studley Grange Garden Centre in Swindon. It's a garden centre we've been chasing for a while to try and get into, and they're very select on who they allowed to trade there, so it's very hard to get into, very hard. And you had World of Water there as well, which only done fresh water when they come to the end of their sort of life in the garden centre.
So they've closed now, right?
They have closed, yeah. We actually found out on the weekend of Aqua. So we didn't actually even get to say goodbye. They'd already shut up and gone. So yeah, that was interesting.
So I used to live in Broughton, and when I set up my first reef aquarium, I was going to that World of Water to get the salt water. And there was a guy there called Jack who used to work there, and he did all the marines at the time. And yeah, it used to be a really, really nice little store, like lots of interesting fish and stuff. And then I think when he left, they just shut down the marine stuff, and I never went back. I never had a reason to get back, but yeah, it was always a nice little place.
Yeah, it's one that I always remember going to as a child as well, because they've been there like 30 plus years. So it's a bit of a shock to see him go in the end, but there you go. It happens.
Okay, so you got into Studley Grange. So yeah, you said that's about 7 months ago or so?
Yeah, 7 months ago now. Raise the Reef has been around for around 10 years.
Okay.
Give or take. We were mostly a garage seller, first of all. So we spent a lot of time sort of off the grid, doing mostly online. We had appointment only. People would come round and pick whatever they wanted. So we done direct imports. And then COVID happened, and we had a few other issues with a light falling in the tank. And it was when Indoban happened as well. So it was mostly just Australian corals we were getting in. And as you know, they're quite expensive on a whole to get in. 2 days after a shipment come in, light fell in the tank. That was it. It kind of cooked the lot. So it was kind of one of them moments where I walked out with a camera, took a picture of the garage and went, someone come pick it up.
Okay.
That was kind of the end of the first era of Raise the Reef. And now this year we're back again, and we're looking to basically grow it from scratch and start afresh.
So were you completely out of the game then in terms of reef keeping?
We
between
were. I
that
didn't
time?
even have a home tank.
Wow. And that was all down to the just that one incident was enough to put you off.
There was a lot of stresses. A lot, like I said, with the Indo ban, things were good until that happened, and then the market just went crazy. COVID happened, so there was a lot of uncertainty there. Don't get me wrong, online was doing really well. It was really picking up. So it was a shame to close it, but I think more mentally, it was the right thing to do for me mentally at that point.
What sort of year was that?
Yeah, so it would have been the first month or so into COVID.
Okay.
So whenever COVID happened, it was then.
Because I was going to say, why did I not come across you? Because that's like exactly when I got into reefing, but it must have been because you shut down, right?
I get a lot of people say that. I get a lot of people that were 2 streets away from me say that, which was quite funny. But again, we were just on Facebook. We had a website. So if you didn't come across them, you probably wouldn't have even known we were there, I'll be honest with you.
Because Swindon at that time, it was like a real little reef hub. There was
Aqualush.
Aqualush, that's it. Yeah, Aqualush.
Yeah.
You've got like 3 or 4 maidenheads around there, right? There's one in Cirencester, there's 2 in Swindon. Then you had the World of Water. Then you've got people like yourself and Fragger Rock, right, in Swindon as well. He's also he's still a garage seller.
Well, we did actually used to have some of the Aqualush staff finish at the shop and come to us to buy the coral.
Okay, yeah.
Which was quite interesting. Yeah, we've been around for a while.
So that leads me into asking then, what got you back into it? So you're running probably like the next step up in terms of you moved out of the garage, you're now into a shop. So like, how did you go from a light in the system, taking everything out, needed a break, getting back into the deep end?
Well, we bought our first house last year, and that sort of, I had a bit more room. So I was kind of like, oh, go on, and I'll get a display tank. Then the display tank turned into a frag tray. And then the frag tray turned into, I need to stop adding tanks into the house and I need to get a shop. That progressed very quickly, I'll be honest. A lot of our original customers come back very quickly, and then it just grew from there. It's been a crazy year so far. Crazy. For the good.
So it's interesting. Like, I mean, I think a lot of us have this kind of pipe dream of, or we've all thought about it, right? Like, Gareth, you sell quite a lot out of your sump, for example. And there was a time where I was selling quite a lot of SPS and stuff. And we've all sort of thought, it'd be lovely to have a frag tank that could start selling out of and stuff. I mean, how did you go from, presumably you were a hobbyist first, but how quickly did you kind of, or have you always been more sort of seller focused?
I was a hobbyist first of all. So how I got into reef keeping was I actually broke my ankle, which gave me too much time on my hands.
Right.
to sort of go down the route. I actually went with seahorses, first of all. That was my first tank. Seahorses. Didn't really go down the coral route. It was more of the fish and the seahorses. And then it progressed onto my first coral tank. And then from there, I was kind of like, do you know what? I actually feel like this is what I want to do. I want to sort of go down the avenue of growing coral, selling coral, importing coral, seeing what other species there are. Colorations, there's millions of different colorations in corals as well. So it's great seeing that over the years of all these different things coming through. And then a local friend of mine actually had some frag trays come up. They were originally selling in their shed, and they give it up. I brought all of their equipment. They passed on a few contacts, and it pretty much grew from there, really.
How do you go about selecting the coral that you want to sell, Ash? What does that process look like?
So now I go to around 4 different suppliers in the UK. I'll drive 2-3 hours. I don't mind. I will go there. I will select them by eye, because I don't like suppliers' photos. They do not look like how they are.
I think we've all experienced that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big thing for me, is the photographs. So we head there, we select our stock by eye. If it looks good in the shop, in their farm, I'll buy it.
Okay.
I don't even ask the price, I'll just buy it.
So, are you selecting things that you enjoy keeping? Like, so is it the hobbyist, or is it the kind of like business side you go with? So, do you go thinking, "Oh, this will sell well," or do you think that is cool? I want it.
So don't get me wrong, we get our bread and butter stuff. So like your hellfire, your dragon soul, your hammers, frog spawns. Once I've got them out of the way on the selection, I'll then go to the higher end side and I'll go, right, this is very unusual, this torch, for instance. I haven't seen one like that before. That's mine. I'm going to have that. I'll either keep ahead to grow it out, because one thing you've got to realise as well, every coral that you're buying from fresh wild imports is not going to retain either the colour that it is, or it's going to change into something magical. We have loads in our tank, in our home tank, that has undergone this process. So yeah, it's having the future vision of each individual coral as well.
So I've heard that with Acropora, and I should say maybe, well, I think I mentioned it in the intro, like you're predominantly LPS focused. I think that's fair to say. You had a lot of, so I visited your store a couple of weekends ago. You had a lot of torches, acans, but a lot of single polyp kind of LPS. Like, I can't remember exactly what you had, but Symphilia, Lobophilia, really interesting, really beautiful stuff like that. I'm very familiar with Acropora, like looking drastically different when they're in your tank. But I've always kind of felt like LPS are a bit more stable color wise. But is that not true?
Very much the opposite.
Okay.
Torches. I've had torches in that are pure green. I'll put them under about 250 to 300 par in high nutrients. They will go bright yellow.
Okay.
And I'm talking bright yellow. So it's kind of knowing the species that you're buying, or the type that you're buying, and then looking at how it will become in, say, 2-3 months' time. When they go into my home tank, it does not take long for me to colour them up. If a torch comes in, I'll use torch for an example. If a torch comes in and it's not very coloured, I'll put it into my tank for 2-3 months. I'll colour it up, then it go into the shop. So I've already done the hard work. I've already got the coloration down. Now they're buying it as they would see it. Don't get me wrong, it can go into systems and it can lose that colour because it's going into a lower par. So I've kind of done the legwork to get it to that colour. You've then got to keep it going along its path.
What would you recommend as your like prime nutrients, like levels you've given us, but like nutrients and things for the perfect torch coloration?
I like mine between 10 and 20. If it goes below 10, I can tell I have problems. Things don't extend as much as what they should. My phosphates generally are really low. They're normally between 0.03 and 0.08. I have a big problem with nutrients in the terms of keeping them up. I feed ridiculous amounts. I put in like two cubes of frozen a day. I have next to no fish, I'll be honest. I've got like 2 clowns, 2 wrasses, a tang, and a goby. That's as far as it goes.
This is in your home tank?
In my home tank, yeah.
Okay,
I'll use that as an example.
Yeah.
I use 2 cubes of frozen a day. 2 to 3 days, I will feed each individual coral. I'll feed torches direct. I'll feed gonoporas direct. Anything that's in the tank will get direct feeding with flow off every 2 to 3 days. And I think that is a massive part in the health of an LPS. I've seen it with torches, for instance, again, with flesh bands. When they're wild, they don't come in really with a flesh band. Not the case on all of them. Some of them, when they do, they go up onto the rack. I'll feed them for 2 to 3 weeks. That flesh band will then slowly start growing back down the stem
Okay.
through the direct feeding.
That's interesting. I've tried feeding torches like early on in the hobby. I never felt like they were really eating anything I was giving them. And what are you feeding them? What do you feed your coral in
So
general?
I feed Benny Pets.
Okay.
Now, the reason I do this because it doesn't up the nutrients.
I've heard this, yeah.
So I used to use Reefroids until I come across Benny Pets. And as you know, Reefroids chuck up the phosphate. So it's kind of...
Phosphate in a bag, yeah.
Yes, I wanted to come away from that and find a solution. And that's where Benny Pets has sort of taken over. And I really feed heavily on it. A lot of my customers have sort of been swayed over to it as well. They've seen great results in their tank through feeding their pretty much any coral in the tank.
Maybe you should say for listeners like Benepets, it's a powdered food, right?
It is a powdered food, yeah.
Yeah, but
you can get pellets as well. You can. Me personally, I use the powdered version.
Yeah, so it's got like, I noticed it's got like very, very fine dust basically all the way up to, not chunks, but some bigger bits in there. And I think that's one of the things I like about it is that you're feeding, it's got like that variety of sizes of granules, I guess. So it's got a small mouth, it's got something to eat. And I noticed the fish really like it actually. Yeah. The fish really like the bigger chunks. Yeah.
For it. Which can obviously become another problem when you're feeding your corals. You don't want your fish going in there, and that could be the downside to it. Is obviously you get a hungry fish. I tend to feed the fish first and then start feeding the corals, so they're a little bit less interested.
My issue was always cleaner shrimp. They're like literally reaching into the mouths of the coral and taking out the food. It looks horrible. Looks like they're violating them. It's really nasty.
I absolutely love cleaner shrimp. Do I like it in my tank? No, I do not. I've got one in my tank. He's staring at me now. No. I personally wouldn't. If I started it again, I wouldn't have another one.
I know you feed your coral quite a lot, James, or at least you've got a bunch of MPS in there and stuff. But Gareth, do you feed your LPS? I know you've been feeding the sick ones. But...
Yeah, I was just thinking that I don't feed them in the display, so that's not something I've been doing. But I have been feeding the ones in the sump, and even the ones that are looking healthy, I've been feeding the sump until I'm happy they're ready to go in the display. That's kind of been my thing this year. And actually, I was just thinking today, even though I'm not feeding the ones in the display, they look a lot healthier than when I was just putting coral straight into my display. So long term wise, it'll be interesting to see whether they keep up that good look or whether it's just from being down in the sump. So you've got me thinking about it now. But it's the practicalities of it. Like in a display, I think it's really easy in frag tanks and down in the sump because I can just get a little syringe. I barely put my hand in the water, nice and easy. But to feed them in my tank, I assume you use something like a turkey baster. Is that what you use it to get to?
I use a very long pipette. Very long pipette.
That must be.
It creates it so much easier because my hand don't actually go in the tank. So I can do it all from above. That's how I would do it. You go back to saying that you feed the corals in the sun. Is it a case of that food's then transferring into your display tank too?
Yeah, so I leave the return running. So I have a little power head in the sump. So I turn the power head off in the sump, but the return pump is drawing the water through. So it's slow enough that the food will hang around the corals. But anything I don't quite get on them then gets drawn into the tank. So there'll be definitely stuff going into the display. And I feed quite a mixed frozen food. So there's particles. Like it's quite a dirty food I put in the tank for that reason. So although I'm not directly feeding them, there's definitely food in there. Like I see my Lobo gets feeding tentacles out when it's fish feeding rather than coral feeding. So there's definitely stuff going in there, but the direct feeding, I'm interested in that. I'm thinking about it.
I broadcast feed. I don't really target feed. But again, I think it probably depends on what coral you've got in your tank, right? Like target feed. There's something really satisfying about like target feeding a like single polyp coral, like a scully or something like that. You really see it feed, and that's it's a wonderful thing. But for me, with like gogs and soft corals and what have you, it'd just be a waste of time getting my pipette out. So I just chuck it in the tank, turn the return off for a little bit, and then switch the return back on and let it circulate.
One of the coolest things I ever did was, and not that long ago really, but the Innovative Marine booth, when it first set up, that was kind of like a soft coral MPS tank, a bit like what you're doing, James. And I had like those red and yellow MPS gorgonians that you always see in shops and are doomed to die in our tanks, unfortunately. So I watched a really interesting video from, I think, someone in China or Japan, and they had these amazing MPS gorgonian tanks, like bright blue, like looked like tinsel, like Christmas tinsel, bright blue gorgonians, and a really amazing video. And he was saying baby brine shrimp, like they just put in shit tons of baby brine shrimp, and you see the polyps on these MPS gorgonians catching them, because he was saying it's the movement is perfect, apparently, of the baby brine shrimp to trigger that sort of predatory response. And I tried it with mine, and it was amazing. I've got these lovely, really cool videos and photos of the polyps grabbing them. And you see the little polyps getting all orange and filled up with baby brine shrimp. So yeah, that was something really awesome to do. But yeah, they were just really difficult to keep long term. But yeah, I used to feed a lot more at the beginning of the hobby. I was saying I don't really feed my coral, but you got me thinking then, Gareth, that I feed the tank quite heavily with mysis and stuff like that. And you always see the acans and stuff opening up. So I probably am feeding them, just not realizing it.
They'll be taking all sorts of nutrients out of that frozen food and all the pellets and everything else as well.
And I've got quite a lot of fish in there, so that's maybe they get to eat poop and stuff like that as well.
Maybe this isn't the right place for this question, but like on the whole nutrients in your water column debate, not wanting to drop below 10 or 20 or 30 or having your phosphate or whatever you may decide is right for your tank. Surely if there's a body of water that's holding nutrients for the corals to absorb and feed on, anything above 0 just shows an excess. Because if you're feeding heavily and your corals are consuming everything within that water column and they're healthy, they're growing, they're happy, surely it doesn't need to be above 0.1 or 0.01 or whatever, because anything over and above that 0.01 is an excess. It's beyond the consumption of whatever livestock you've got in your tank. Is that not right? Or do some corals like to have an excess?
It is a good point. However, if you envision the sea, there are so many different particles, from fish poop to phytoplankton or planktons, everything that goes past. The coral will be grabbing all of these throughout the day and eating. So even in the sea, they're not just consuming the phosphate and nitrate. They're grabbing a lot of particles that go past them. So that's the other thing that you got to think about is their environment on where they're coming from. A lot of people just think it's just light. It's really not. You've got to. They only eat as much as they want to eat anyway. I've done hyperlapses with torches eating, and you'll see them. They're taking, say, if I put like half a pipette on them, they take a quarter of it in, then they get rid of the stuff that they don't want. So that'll then float around the tank and go off wherever. So you will see it. They'll only take as much as they need.
And that's sort of my point, because if they're only taking what they need, then if you're running your nitrate, say, at 30, then that's just 29 more than what the corals are consuming, right? I mean, I know that there's a balance there in terms of what you're saying as well, in that it's not just nitrate and phosphate. They need particle foods available to them. And ultimately, that's why I broadcast feed my tank. And part of a symptom of doing that is that I end up with really high nutrients, because inevitably there's die-off, and a lot of those particle foods are just high in phosphate anyway.
Yeah, it is tank dependent. You have got to keep an eye on how your tank's reacting to it. I say my tank's very much low nutrients, so I feed heavy to try and keep them up. Then I ain't got to keep putting in the nitrate or phosphate to keep the levels up.
It's a really interesting question, James, and I don't really know what the answer is, because we know that low nutrients starves the corals, and some coral will not like it. When I've had really low nutrients, LPS have really struggled and stuff like that. But so I don't know whether like the sort of advice around keeping nitrates at 10, for example, is more that you've got a buffer or whatever. But I wonder if part of it is that one of the ways I've kind of always thought about it a bit is that the sort of the simplest form of nutrients, so your nitrate, your phosphate that are in the water are more like fertilizers for the zooxanthellae, the algae inside the coral. And actually the feeding that like Ash is doing and like you're doing is actually feeding the animal itself, the actual coral, right? And so if you're just doing light, you're kind of like, you're just feeding the algae, you're just doing one end of the
you're pretty much
of the
on nail on the
symbiosis
head
and
there,
not
because
feeding the animal itself. But
the reason we go higher towards the 20 ppm of nitrate is we can ramp up the light and really pull the colours out. So if it drops, like I said, below the 10, I'll know things aren't extending. I'll start losing a bit of colour in the torches. So it kind of works in hand with nutrients and power. It's a fine balance between coloration and health.
Yeah, that's about the effect of PAR, right? So higher nutrients, you can generally run higher PAR. It's like the nutrients act as a bit of a sunscreen, as it were, for the zooxanthellae, whereas if you run lower nutrients, you're at higher risk of burning coral from running higher PAR, which is, again, yeah, it's all part of that balance, isn't it? So, like, in your tank, how do you strike that balance between PAR, nitrate, phosphate? I had lots of fun with this when I was running my SPS tank. It was something that I spent a lot of time sort of tinkering around with and playing with. And I tend to find that for an SPS tank, I got, better results from what I would call like moderate par, not like super high at like 600-700 par, but, sort of 350, 400, something like that. And then running nitrates fairly low, like sub 5, and my phosphate at 0.05. And I seem to get the best coloration at that point. But it also was linked to flow as well. Like the higher flow and higher energy, I found that corals responded differently to the amount of nutrients that were in the tank, and also helped me keep nutrients down. I found like if my flow stopped, I'd get higher nutrients. I don't know if there's any sort of link there, or if it was to do with coral take up, or
probably was. I mean, so I was listening to a podcast this week with a guy who has like an 8-foot SPS dominant reef tank, like mostly Acropora. And yeah, it's like he was saying exactly the same thing. Like, I'm sure you studied this in school, Gareth. You probably teach this, like limiting factors, right? Right. So the higher light is, the more nutrients you have, because they grow faster. But then when they're growing faster, they need to get rid of waste faster, so they need more flow. So it's, yeah, he was saying, you can run your acro tank at 600 par easy, but then you need to have nitrates. Your nutrients really high, but you could also do the opposite. And I wondered, those super low nutrient tanks of the past, like Zeovit and stuff like that, they often just had T5s on the tank. And I now wonder actually whether, having sort of played around with T5s, how they're really low par. And I actually wonder if, those old style T5 tanks with lots of SPS, they're very pale looking. The reason why they could do that is because they had really no nutrients, but they also had hardly any light on them, probably like 100, 200 par or something, right? In the freshwater world, they call it sort of high energy system versus like low energy system. I think that's like the nice way to think about it, is if you've got lots of energy, either like lots of par or lots of food or lots of wave action, then yeah, you need all of those things for it to be a high energy system. So
I think I understand the SPS a little bit more than LPS. I've never really kept LPS, so I'd be quite interested to hear from Ash and from you guys, like, what does that balance look like within an SPS tank? Like LPS, sorry, what did I say? SPS.
Yeah.
Sticks on the
Got
brain.
them on the brain.
You definitely do rely, so you've got to have the random flow. You do have to have the random flow still. It's not going to be as high flow as what you would on an SPS system, but you definitely, the flow is a big part. You've got to dial in your flow just as much as every other element of your tank.
What are you looking for when you say dial in the flow? Like, what is it that gives you the cue you got it right?
It's quite hard to explain, but you kind of want almost like a wavy motion, not so it's looking like the head's going to rip off the torch or hammers or anything like that. You want it sort of soft and graceful. With everything going around the tank, you can see that the flow's hitting everywhere and not just in one area as well. You want to make sure all of the dead spots have, obviously, so there's no detritus settlement and whatnot else. But at the same time, you've kind of got to not put in masses amount so they're ripping their heads off. But then you go to some suppliers, like I say, and they are literally ripping their heads off. And they're absolutely fine. So it's a weird balance, but I found a soft, graceful movement in the torch becomes to longer extension, better coloration, just overall healthier coral.
I think that the removal of waste, I think Chris touched on it slightly. You talked about it there, Ash. We're dealing with, we're not in the ocean where there's infinite dilution, right? We're dealing with closed systems, and we're putting relatively high amounts of food within that closed system if you were to compare it to the sea. And I think flow plays such an important part in making sure that waste gets whipped away. If you have a deep sand bed and you're not getting flow, in the bottom of your tank, raising up detritus, raising up any sort of funky bacterial things that are going on within the bottom of the tank. I see so many tanks that struggle where corals are placed on the sandbed and in and around the sandbed, and I swear that that's got something to do with the flow and detritus and buildup of bacterial issues or whatever it may be. And it's not an easy thing to deal with because we don't want sand blowing
You're
around.
You're very much right there. You're very much right. For instance, if we have some corals that have come in, they're not looking great. I use Gonopora as an example. We put them onto the sandbed in my home tank so I can watch them. I can give them more food. I can try and entice them out to come out again. My sandbed will go a lot more browner than, say, if they weren't on the sandbed and the flow's going through. So I do have to think about when I add stuff in certain places, whether I've got to up that flow a little bit to sort of counteract and stop that from happening. But yeah, as soon as I remove them and they go back into the shop, my sandbed's good again. It's white. And I don't touch the sandbed at all. I've never siphoned it ever. I've never siphoned any sandbed. I
don't
let everything in there do its thing, basically.
Gareth, I saw you looking at your torches. Were you seeing were you seeing whether they've got that nice, gentle, wavy motion?
Yeah, exactly that. It's one of the kind of downsides of my tank. It's my favorite thing is it's a peninsula. I love the peninsula. It works really well in my room. But the downside is getting the flow around it. And I was just thinking, so I have two gyres, one on either side of the weir, and I'll have 2 hours of one blasting on and off, and then it'll swap to the other one blasting on and off. So it means the ones that are on the far side get a real nice wavy motion. The ones that are on the gyre side when it's running, it can be a little bit whippy around, but then it's only 2 hours at a time. I was doing that kind of debate in my head. It's like, yeah, it probably is getting a bit too much flow, but then it's only for 2 hours of the day, and then it swaps, and it has 2 hours of really nice, gentle flow. And it's that kind of.
I don't think that would be an issue.
No, personally. I mean, they look really happy. So I mean, I'm not going to change anything because you don't change things when they're looking good, do they? But it's that kind of. It's interesting. You're kind of saying that the vendors, like, they'll have them absolutely whipping around, and like they can take it, can't they? But they definitely it's on the gyre is on this side of the tank, and my big torch colony is, you can see the top half is really extended. The side that's like really close to the gyre's flow is definitely more attractive. But in an hour's time, it'll be back out again. So yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
You said you do online as well. Like, what's the split between online and in store now that you've got an actual physical location?
This is where it becomes a little bit difficult. So we've got a website. Now the website kind of gets left to just do its own thing. So we'll put a certain amount of stock on there. It's not everything that we've got. It's like a slight proportion of what we actually stock. The reason for this is we've got a WhatsApp group with like 170 odd members.
Okay.
Now, whenever new stock comes in, it goes onto this group first. It's generally sold before it's even got into the shop. Right. So it's for us, it's very hard to keep up with the scale of things coming in, things that are there, and things that are sort of going up onto the website, being sold in store. I've got to keep all of these things in mind on what I do with how much I put online, how much I put. So we're on eBay website. We're on a few different other selling platforms. So there's all these different things that obviously take time. So say if I sold something in store, I've then got to then remember, go through online, delete that from everywhere. So at the moment, it's kind of doing most of our selling through WhatsApp and in store.
Okay.
So it's, the website's been a little bit neglected. So if anyone ever sees anything that they kind of want, it's always best to ask, because the chances are we do have it, but it's not showing. So it's having the time to keep up with it.
Do you do this full time? Is this because I was just thinking that sounds like manic to manage all of these like spinning plates?
So on the weekends, I'm in store.
Okay.
I run it Saturday and Sunday. During the week, we have a lot of shipping out. So that's all done via either message or orders through the website, orders through eBay. Kia is there in the shop. She's our behind the scenes, packing all the orders, sending them out, and she does a hell of a lot during the week. I'm a builder during the week, so I'm off doing other things whilst I'm at this job. So like in my lunch break, I'm sorting supplier runs. I'm sorting all these different things that I've got to do, along with answering loads of different messages from like anyone. Anyone can message me. Say if they got a problem, I'll help them. If I have the time, I will dedicate my time to it. So it's a big juggle.
Yeah, that sounds intense. I struggle to like just maintain my aquariums with a full-time job. Gareth as well, you have all of these projects and your small holding and things like that. Maybe I'm really bad at time management.
I could be working till like 11 o'clock at night doing messaging people, sorting orders. It's just it's all these different things that sort of add up. But we are looking. Well, we've confirmed a new shop, which is going to be bigger than the one we're in. Now, this is where Kia comes into play. So during the week, she will actually be manning that shop. So it will be live during the week, and then I will be there on the weekends. People can go there during the week at the moment, but it is appointment only, just purely because of time management and trying to get everything done.
So you're going to move to a bigger store soon,
that's the plan. Within the same garden centre. The unit that we're in at the moment is very small. I'll be honest with you, it's very small. It's this is basically our first year back. We didn't know how it was going to go, what was going to happen, how fast it was going to progress. It's progressed too fast. We need a bigger shop. We need some more trays.
It's a good problem to have, I guess.
It is a good problem to have. I just need it to speed up.
Why don't you tell us what you've got currently in terms of like trays and sizes and volumes and what you're heading to in the new store, so we've got a kind of centre scale.
So we've got a 6 foot by 2 foot main tray at the moment. We've got a smaller 2 by 2 frag tank. And then we've got another 3 foot coral tank. We've also got a rack now with cleanup crew and enemies. In the new store, we've got another 2 trays ready to go. They're sat in the corner of the shop now in boxes.
That's exciting.
So they're ready to go into that shop. And if there is more room, we'll go more trays. We'll just keep going until we've got a good amount of stock in there. Different species. We'll look to do a little bit of SBS in the new shop as well. Softy tanks, display tanks as well, because we get a lot of people coming in browsing that are not in the hobby, but kind of like to know. It's amazing how many people don't actually realise corals sort of exist. It's generally crazy.
That's one of my favourite things at work at the moment is I've been doing a bit of purchasing for my college tank, and these things come in, it says like live animals on the side, and the staff are always like, oh, what have you got? I'm like, oh, that's corals. And they're like, what? Like blows their mind. I'm like, it's quite casual when you're in the hobby yourself, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's just some corals in a box. But
well, we would like to do a few school talks in there as well. At the moment, we're very, like I say, a very small shop, so we can't hold them in there. But yeah, that is the plan in the new shop. It'll be a bit bigger. We can get classrooms in. We can have a little talk with the students. There's a couple of schools already interested in doing that. They've approached us. We have donated various corals to 4 different schools where they have a little micro tank that they watch and sort of learn from in the classroom, which is great.
I know a college that would be interested in coming to see you, and they also accept donations.
Might be referring to me there, James. I was just thinking that I'll get on that one. We'll come down. We'll be there for the grand opening. I'll bring 60 18-year-olds.
One at a time, though.
Yeah, you said you're there on Saturday and Sundays. Yeah. Like, what does a typical day look like running a coral shop? I imagine, like, in my head, it's all kind of fun, just chatting to customers about coral and how their tanks are doing and things like that. But I imagine it's probably quite a lot of more work than you'd realise.
The way we build our systems, they're very low maintenance. So the maintenance side of it, we don't have to worry about. The systems run themselves. The most I have to do is clean the glass. As long as I can get in there before customers, clean the glass, feed the fish. I mean, customers could be waiting at the door before I even get there. Really? Or it could be dead for like 2 hours. So you never know on the day what's going to happen. If it's a little bit quieter when I first get in, I'll obviously clean the glass, I'll feed the fish, feed the nems. Then I will try and catch up with a little bit of online. By that point, I've loaded it up. Customers come in, so I can't. I then don't get to do that. So it's kind of selling heads on then and try and deal with the customers.
But I guess you probably get a real mix of like newbies and more experienced people.
Oh, very much so. Okay. Very much so. Yeah, we have quite a lot of people travelling to us now. A lot of people travelling, which is obviously good. There's a lot of people that come with problems as well, and they want to try and find a solution to sort of better their tank or combat a problem of their tank. With us, we sell very limited dry goods. We mostly supply stuff that we believe in. So if you was to come to us with a problem, we wouldn't try and sell you a fix. We try and fix it with knowledge over product, which is what sets us aside from your average normal shop.
You can't say, try this bottle of... I mean, that happened to me when I went into I won't name the shop, but one I don't go to for much anymore. But yeah, I went in there with a bit quite early on in the hobby with like a hair algae issue. And they were like, try a bottle of this, try a bottle of that, buy this tang, try all these snails. I think I spent about 200 quid or something and none of it worked. So.
Yeah, we get that so much. It's generally a bit of a pet hate. Not on the customer side because they're obviously unaware of what's happening, but it's more on the people selling the products, which for me don't feel the need for half of them. I'll be honest with you.
Sea hair, that was another thing they sold me, and it died after not a very long period.
I put a couple of those when I had a hair algae problem in my tank. It dealt with the algae like so quickly. But then it got blended by a power head. Yeah. They're supposed to be really toxic, aren't they? And I remember thinking, well, that's it. My tank's, everything's going to strip, everything's going to die. I think I just did a 20% water change and watched it, and nothing happened whatsoever. It was absolutely fine. So, I mean, the sea hair wasn't, but the tank was.
They're really cool organisms. I mean, to be fair, when I put it in, like, it's the one organism I've added where you can see it actually mowing down patches of algae, but it didn't. I think I might have had dinos or something at the same time, and they're super toxic to mollusks and stuff, so I don't think it. Anyway, it didn't last very long.
Very careful on what cleanup crew we bring in because the systems are so clean. We've got to bring in stuff that will sort of, you know what I mean, survive rather than. Say if we was to order sea hares in, it's kind of, we would get them in to order rather than there and then because it'd be trying to keep it alive.
To be honest, I think they're the sort of organism that's best left in the sea. There's a few, I think, which you see fairly regularly in shops, and that's one where I think, why are we importing that? That seems like such a waste.
I'll be honest, there's better ways of combating it again. You don't really need one.
We've talked a little bit about going to suppliers. It's something I'm properly interested in. I've chatted to you about it a bit in the past, Ash, about how suppliers works. It's one of those bits as hobbyists we don't see into that, and it's something I'm keen when we get guests on is to like hear people's perspectives, what it's like as an experience. So for me, I imagine it's this big warehouse. They've got these coral trays, and then I can't quite work out whether you're looking through like side, are you looking down on them, are they like stacked, like just like what is it to walk into a supplier's, like what are they like?
They're just bodies of water. I'll be honest. Some have tanks, some have plastic trays. It's whatever houses water, and you can obviously keep the corals alive. That's all they would need. You can obviously they're out there turn the flow off for you if you ask them. You can look from the top down and view, or if it's in like a normal tank, then you can look through the glass. It's on a whole, they will turn off the flow for you, so you can have the best sort of viewing experience of them. They're not that exciting to go and look at, I'll be honest. The only thing that captivates you is the coral. You're more going there for the coral as opposed to how they're set up. It's practical. It's practical rather than pretty.
That makes sense.
And that's the main thing.
And then in terms of like coral selection, you're like something I've noticed is that you're good at getting the unusual and the short supply. And how does that work? Is it that you just know the right time to go, or do they put out? Because at the end of the day, these are available to all the retailers in the UK, aren't they? Everyone can turn up and purchase. But how do you get that? Like, do they put out a notice?
I'll be honest with you, I'm a nuisance. I will hunt for these. I know what I'm hunting for, and if I can find it, I will get it. I don't really hang about when it comes to, say, if I go back to the vendors sending me photos. I don't trust the photos, but I can see enough to know what I'm looking for in terms of that coral. So I would go, put that by for me. When I come, I'll have a look in person. If I like it, I'll buy it. If I don't, go, well, don't look anything resemblance of the photo, then I'll obviously change it for something else. In terms of the rareness, it just depends on where I go, really, and the timing. So I know when shipments come in. On the real high-end stuff, I tend to go the day after it's come in. I'll take the risk on it, and I'll put it into my display tank. As in, it's my grow-out holding tank. I'll put it in there and let it colour up, let it settle before the higher-end pieces go into the shop. So the chances are the higher-end pieces have already come in, but they don't enter the shop tanks until further down the line. But yeah, they are open to everyone. Everyone can get hold of them. I'm just a little bit quicker.
So is that then how the like the WhatsApp side of things comes into play? Like if, let's say, you've spotted something, it's brilliant, you've not, no one sent you out there to get it, but you're like, that is something I need to take. You take it home, stick it in the display to settle. How does it then get out to the punters?
What I do is I generally go onto a WhatsApp group, I'll take a picture of it and I go, oh, look at this strange, unusual piece that I've managed to get hold of. It's all well and good until they know the price. So, but yeah,
everyone's like, what's that? Can I have it? What's that? Can I have it?
Yeah. So WhatsApp is very easy to share pictures. So it's a very good sort of, if you want to be the first to see the stock that comes in, that's the best way of doing it, because it's where you'll get the most photos straight away, as opposed to waiting for it to go a little bit on TikTok, a little bit to go on Facebook, various different things like that. So WhatsApp's our first point of call, just for ease. And we have built a bit of a community there as well. It's not just selling. Generally, people go in there for discussion, problems, they're having issues. Over 170 members in there that can help you. They've probably been through the issues that you're going through as well. So that's another good thing on building the community, not just the selling aspect of it.
Recently, you sent some photos of some Colorado sunburst anemones.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. And listeners might remember that was kind of the standout organism, but I think lots of people sort of talked about at Aqua, still don't know how to say this. I mean, it was by far like one of the nicest animals I've ever seen in the hobby, coral fish,
They're
whatever.
a very, very nice colour. Very nice.
And really, photos don't do them justice. Like
Not at all.
they look completely different in person than they do in photos. And when I saw that one at QH, I was kind of under the impression like this is the first one in the UK, or that they're impossible to get or whatever. But I've actually since seen them cropping up, a few places at AAC.
Definitely wasn't the first in. They've been around for a while. Not many people have them. They're still few and far between. They're still a very rare anemone to have. Generally, I've only seen, so in the past year, I've only seen 2 imported. One was kept there for grow out. The other one went to Coral Vault. Don't get me wrong, I was trying to get hold of the second one. You don't ask, you don't get, right? I even promised them if it splits in my tank, they can have one back.
Right. Is that the people who had it at QH?
No.
Okay.
No, so the actual suppliers that imported it.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
I sort of joked with them. I'll take it off your hand. I'll pay you for it. I'll grow it in my tank. You can have one back. Everyone's happy. It didn't work out like that. But
Yeah. They're quite common in the US now. And when you say they've been imported, where are they coming from? Are they coming from the US, or are they coming from people are finding them in the wild and bringing them in?
It's a bit of a weird one that I don't really fully understand. I'll be honest with you, because from what I can see, they're few and far between in the wild. However, other things that I've read is they've been sort of adapted in the US. So it's kind of one of them where, again, you believe in stuff online that you don't fully understand where the actual origin of them are. Most stuff comes from Indo anyway. So the chances are they did originate from there. The 2 that got imported this year did come from Indo. They didn't come from America. I'm pretty sure the Colorados, they actually, it was somewhere else, not Colorado, that actually coloured them up. I might be wrong on that. I was reading something the other day about them. It's kind of one of them where someone puts a name on something and it's from a completely different place. You go, okay.
They're very pretty though. So yeah, I'm glad to see that they're popping up in the UK. And I can imagine lots of different coral strains. There's the named version that's going around, but they're still being imported from the wild. And
I have been told that they can't source anymore. So as far as I'm aware, these 2 sunbursts that got imported were in the holding tanks in Indo for a while before they actually come over. I have kept one behind, and it will become my grow out propagation piece, basically.
yeah,
It's always good to sort of hold one behind, especially if you can't get it again, to keep it a bit more sustainable.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Also financial sense. If you could be the one person that's sort of selling them, and yeah, that'd be great. Like, are they any harder to keep than your regular sort of bubble tip? Do they grow as fast? So if they are, they should be easy to spread around.
I mean, what have we've had it 2 weeks. It generally is no different to any other bubble tip that I've found. They grow big. So I've seen some dinner plate size ones of them as well. So they do grow pretty big. That's the only sort of difference I would say. A normal bubble tip would split constantly.
Yeah.
These, if it split constantly, you'd be well happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't.
I've got a green bubble tip with sort of pink tips, and that one, I've had it, I don't know how long I've had it now, quite a few months. Never split. It just, as you said, it just seems to get bigger and bigger. So maybe it's just the rose bubble tips that are fast dividers.
It's quite funny you say that, because the green ones in the shop tend to be the ones that don't really split. The red ones, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Different species, I guess, isn't it?
We mentioned Aqua H there, and you were a vendor there. I'd just be really curious to hear, like, what was that experience like? Was it fun? Was it stressful getting all the coral there? Would you go back again?
What a weekend. So we had never done anything like that, or even planned to do anything like that. We kind of went into it about 5 weeks beforehand and went, yeah, come on, and let's go and do Aqua. Let's buy some trays. Didn't have no trays for it. Didn't have anything. On the bounce, working out how we were going to do it. The Friday we set up, and I'll be honest, it went really well. We didn't have what other vendors had in bacterial blooms. Our secret to that, so my display tank doesn't have water changes at all. It received its first water change on that Friday because I took the water with me to Aqua, along with some of the water from the shop. So yeah, I used all of my own water. I used all of my own bio media in the bottom to hold up the egg crate. That's as simple as that went with not creating a bacterial swing. Whereas other people putting fresh water in, bacteria, that was it. It was really cloudy water. So we were quite lucky in that sense. However, I did kind of forget about the selling water.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So it's all well and good taking your own, you've calculated the volumes to take the water with you. Well, I kind of forgot about the selling side of it.
How did you deal with that?
Well, I had to go out to a local shop and buy salt water.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah, that was an added thing on the Friday to go out and do whilst trying to unbox all of these corals. We took, what did we take? 4 boxes with us? No, 5.
5, I think.
Five boxes of corals.
You had quite a lot of stuff which other vendors didn't have. Like I remember you had a lot of acans or micromusa, sorry. So,
Yeah, we had a lot of the old school Lord Howanese acans, the really big headed ones. I was quite fortunate that one of my suppliers messaged me a couple of weeks before and said, "Look, we're coming to our fragging our grown out colonies. Would you be interested in some?" And I was like, "Well, I've got Aqua coming up. Let's take something that has not been seen for a while." We had rows and rows full of acans. I'll be honest, we took like, I think it was in the end 1 row's worth of acans back with us. So they were very popular. But again, they hadn't been seen for a long time. So same with the torches. Like we took a lot of high-end torches with us, and they were very popular.
Did you notice any difference between the 2 days in terms of like being a seller? Because we went on the
massively.
How was it different? Because we only went on the Saturday. It's probably the one regret. I'd like to have gone on the Sunday to see the difference.
So the Saturday we were at times 3 or 4 deep. It was manic. Honestly, for 2 of us to keep tabs of everything and sort of control the selling, it was hard work. Obviously, I like to talk to my customers as well. So I kind of missed that side of it on the Saturday. It was kind of like you go there, you're picking, you're buying, and you haven't got the time to talk to customers, which I miss. On the Sunday was a lot more relaxed. There was a lot less people. A lot of people sort of relaxed, walking about, having a chill. Yeah, we had more time to basically talk to the customers, which was really nice. But yeah, on the Sunday we'd probably end up doing more in store, like selling wise.
That's interesting.
So yeah, the Sunday wasn't great financially, but it's nice to speak to new customers and sort of introduce ourselves and show them what we're about. So that's all that mattered to us. It's not the financial side to it with Aqua. It's more of the community aspect of seeing new customers and seeing customers that are with you, but they're too far away to get to you.
I guess you got to meet people who you've only met online or shipped stuff to before.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it must be nice. And I guess you probably also made new contacts as well, but now regular customers could see the benefit of it.
Yeah, there was one guy who's a YouTuber from America. He very much wanted me to send corals back to him.
Really?
Yeah, he was very, very impressed with what we had on offer, which was always good to hear as well.
That's interesting because you think of the US being able to get whatever they want or having a better variety.
Well, I believe it's more of camera trickery,
Right.
which kind of leads you to sort of believe that they're all singing, all dancing corals. We've probably already got them over here, but no one's taking brilliant pictures of them, or they're not coloured up as well.
What's your top 3 corals you've seen, whether you've bought them or seen them at the distributors this year?
I can't really choose, I'll be honest with you. So I'm very much a torch person. I get very excited sometimes when I see a torch that I haven't seen before. Very excited because if you haven't seen it before and you're a euphilia lover, it's unique. But again, that comes with a price. So so I do get them in, but they're going to grow out and they won't be seen for a good year, maybe 2, till there's a fair few heads on them.
How often do you see torches that you haven't seen before? I remember there was a period when I got into the hobby, it was in the torch hype phase. So there was lots of Indo golds coming in. There were bananas, this and that, and dragon soul and rastas. And these days it's rare that I see a torch that I haven't seen before. Are there still varieties out there where, the other day there was a video on bright red Catiophilia? Are there still varieties out there of torches that we haven't seen yet, like a red torch or something along those lines? Or they're all kind of variations of green and yellow?
So I don't feel like there's a red torch. So if you was to see a picture of one, the likelihood it's going to be blue, and you take a picture of an orange lens, it turns red. I've done a little bit of an example of this on a TikTok, and the TikTok went crazy. But I did also state on there, this is not its true colours. This is like how you're led to believe in seeing things. Don't believe what you see until you see it. So until I see one in person, I personally can't say that there is. But yeah, there are torches that come through and I go, I haven't ever seen that before. The mixture of coloration, like we've got one in the tray at the moment. I've never seen that blend of colour in a torch before.
What colours does it have?
One tentacle will be yellow, one tentacle will be green. It's really hard to explain the contrast in it. If I take a picture of it, it'll either be green or yellow. I can't get that blend of what they are.
Has it got that kind of like spliced and grafted kind of look, or does it look like it is separate? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, does it look like it's a hybrid or a actual that's the colour in?
No, it don't look like a spliced. Well, I have a few on grow out spliced. We did have a few in recently. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like that. It's more of the contrast of colour that I haven't seen in your average torch.
I've been in a real kind of SPS phase recently, but going to your shop, you'd like look at LPS a bit more, and I'm like, no, I can't afford to go back in that direction. SPS are actually relatively cheap most of the time, and after visiting your shop, I did think there's some nice. I keep looking at pink trackies at the moment. I'm like, what's wrong with me? This is not who I am.
I love SPS because you can. I say I love SPS. It's a love-hate relationship. So I've had SPS tanks. I personally wouldn't go back to having a display tank with SPS just because of you look at it wrong, it could be dead. I don't like that side of it, but you can pull out some really nice colours on SPS. I try and do that with the LPS side, and that's what I'm trying to show people. You can bring in a nice green torch. You can be leaving with it yellow. It's how you can manipulate the colours to do what you want them to do. You can create some stunning pieces.
Let's wrap things up there. Thanks again, Ash, for joining us today, for sharing your tips, your experiences. Just a reminder, you can find Raise the Reef at Studley Grange Garden Centre in Swindon or online at raisethereef.co.uk. You're also on Facebook. It sounds like you're on TikTok as well. And you've got these WhatsApp groups. If someone wanted to join that group, I mean, is it open to anyone? How would someone find that?
You could either email us via the website and I can send a link over, or you can message us via Facebook and I can send a link over that way. But yeah, it's an open group. Anyone can join. Don't get me wrong, if you cause a nuisance, then you will get removed.
And that actually brings us to the end of Reefing Radio for this year. It's been a brilliant half year since we started the show. And we'd like to say a huge thank you to the guests we've had. And we're really excited about the guests that we've got lined up. And most importantly, James, Gareth, and I would really like to thank everyone who's listened, followed along, sent messages, and supported the podcast. We really appreciate it. So we'll be back in the new year, but you're most likely going to see us next on Reef Talks live stream, which is happening, I think it's the 4th of January, something like that. We're going to be there. We hope everyone has a really wonderful festive season and a happy new year. And thank you for listening.
You've been listening to Reefing Radio. Subscribe, share, and stay salty. Reefing Radio, over and out.